Let's get tricky. NASCAR heads to Pocono, and we get you set with our best bets and DFS tiers next on the Backroad.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checker flag. That's all this race
What's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday night, wherever you're watching from in the world. This is the Backroad. It's in between media's fantasy NASCAR betting show. Seth, it's an exciting show, man. My name's Elliot Hicks. Next to me is Seth Woolcock. We are going to break down the Chicago Street Course and what you know if you've seen the show before. It was a big weekend for us here at the Backroad. Big race there. We're going to break down some NASCAR news, and then we are ready for the Tricky Triangle IBT at the track again at the Pocono Raceway this weekend.
Elliot, great to see you. The buzz every single time we go up to Long Pond, it is palpable. I'm expecting nothing different in this chapter of things here in 2024. Big ups to NASCAR and the fine people up there at the track for letting us cover this event once again, bringing the IBT family content from a betting and DFS perspective all weekend long. And speaking of the IBT family, Elliot, we asked them a couple weeks ago, we said, hey, can you get us to 1.1K subscribers by the end of the weekend of Pocono? And if so, we'll do a giveaway for a diecast. We're almost there, man. We're just about 9 subscribers short of that. So appreciate everyone who tunes in every single week and waves in the comments with us and chats it up. We greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. We're that close. We're going to take a look at Pocono. We might be able to find a little something that'll be good to give away. And yeah, thanks again to the IBT family. I know Seth is usually the one that really shouts you guys out, but this is just super duper awesome. Being able to go to the track, cover the races for you guys, bring you some good content is going to be a lot of fun. But before we get to Pocono, we got to take a look back in the rear view in what was another wild weekend at the Chicago Street Course. So even though the weather unfortunately couldn't stay away all weekend, we still had 2 really good enthralling races. Xfinity, we had perfect weather all day long. Some of the best racing we've seen already. We said it was the most stacked Xfinity field we'd seen in a while. Some spectacular racing, especially between Shane Van Gisbergen and Kyle Larson, who end up being the 2 fighting it out at the end. And SVG ends up taking the win in one of the better races in that series. And then the Cup Series gets messed up by weather a little bit. We got a little rain delay. We had for the first time a true countdown clock in NASCAR, and it led to some drama. Were the wet tires the right way? Were the slick tires the right way? The wets held on by just a little much, and my guy Alex Bowman returns to victory lane for the first time since 2022. Seth, I was telling you, it took me about a day and a half for my voice to get back to normal after some lighthearted cheering, we'll say.
Well, I'm in the same boat, but for obviously different reasons. 2 weeks in a row, I'm this close to hitting potentially my biggest, payday in a long time, maybe ever in the NASCAR gambling community, and just, come up short. But we're going to keep on treading. And, shout out to Alex Bowman. He got it done on strategy. I couldn't believe just some of the people we had up in this race. Joey Hand at the end of it, 4th place finish for him. Alex Bowman gets it done, as we kind of alluded to as well. Todd Gillen, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. So really crazy to kind of see it all. I had that 16-1 and that 6-1 on SVG going into Sunday, feeling good. He wins stage 1. And then I see Briscoe out of control, and I say, oh, I think he just missed him. I said, Katie, watch this. SVG just missed him. And then I keep playing it. Oh no, he got him. So that was a total bummer. But shout out to, the whole number 48 team, man. I think they did a really good job, and I'm sure you can speak further, what it means to Bowman, and his interview kind of expressed it all.
Yeah, they released they got the t-shirt design out too for the Alex Bowman Burb 1 from Chicago. But yeah, a lot of those guys hadn't won a cup race before. They've talked in spades about that. Good for them to get back to victory for Hendrick playoffs. It's great for them. But I think they probably don't go green stage because they had the with a go, decide to let it run under caution to get to the end of the stage. but then it starts raining. And, everyone already had wets on because the track was wet. What do you really do there? NASCAR, I think, sent it back green. They probably would not have done that. The spray was just too much. We said after COTA a few years ago that we don't want to race in the rain. We don't want to race in all the spray. It was a mess. We had multiple different incidents. The 23 and the 48, that whole thing happens in that one lap. And then Briscoe and SVG tangling, obviously, just with no control, really. The guys at the front could see, SVG could see because he's a badass. Nobody else really could figure it out. Unfortunately, ruined SVG's race, and Kyle Larson's race also gets messed up. Arguably the best 3 cars finished 37th, 39th, and 40th in this race.
Yeah, and I think we still handicapped it pretty well. Like the top 3 guys in our tiers were SVG, Bell, and Reddick, which I think if everything played out to fashion, I think they're probably the top 3 cars. I will say I did.
If it rains, you have SVG. If it doesn't rain, you have Bell. And if Reddick doesn't hit the wall, he arguably wins the race too.
Yeah, and I will say, I didn't give Larson enough credit coming into this race. Definitely left some money on the table from him for winning the pole. Also, should have probably backed him from a top 3 perspective in the Xfinity series. So didn't give him enough credit there. But all in all, man, it was still a fun weekend. Came out a little negative, unfortunately. It hit that nice outright on Saturday with SVG. But just didn't get it done on Sunday. So that's on me. Hit the Michael McDowell top 10 and really not much else on my card. Everything kind of went up into smoke. And man, we keep getting fucked over by weather, but that's part of the game here. And we have to know that each and every single week.
Yeah, and good thing we're going to Pocono, a track where it notoriously never rains when NASCAR's there. The forecast was bad for Friday, thankfully. But yeah, I didn't really hit a whole lot anyway. I've put it on record on the show before that, most weeks when I throw a lot on the card, I'm always throwing a little sprinkle on my guy, that 48 car. Guess who didn't lay down anything on his fucking outright the week he wins? Good on me. But I had his top 5 and I had something else that won. But yeah, it's interesting because, Seth, we're getting better at handicapping. We're really picking out the best cars week in, week out. It's just the chaos factor the last couple of weeks. It's been stacking up and it's crazy and it's been fucking over a lot of people's cars, not just.
Oh, yeah. It's really everyone in the gambling community is having a tough time right now, kind of with the ends of these races. You can handicap it as well as you can, and sometimes the chips just don't fall back to you. We got Cush hanging out in the chat saying SVG, I love the spray. No, dude, no.
It's too dangerous. I mean, it was like the Bowman situation with Bubba Wallace, which I hope Bubba Wallace goes back and realizes he writes his check into NASCAR for the fine and then goes back and realizes nobody could see shit. Bowman couldn't get his wiper working. You shouldn't do that in the corner. You should do it on the straightaway. So that's partly on Alex for messing with things in the corner. But there were so many incidents going on. And I'm sure if you were watching this guy's in car, that guy's in car, everyone was missing corners. Nobody could see anything. Like I said, if they had to do it again, I don't think NASCAR goes back green there. As annoying as it would have been to bring him down pit row, which they eventually had to do anyway, you probably do that once you get any sort of significant precipitation to avoid those situations. Because even if you just take those 2 laps, sure, people would bitch, people would be upset.
Yeah.
If you run 7 laps under caution, then bring them down without even trying to get back to green. But then you have the best car stays in the race, the biggest storyline stays in the race in SVG. Obviously bad luck that he just barely gets clipped, smacks the wall. But like I said, I think NASCAR, there's more lessons to learn, but they really did improve in letting the teams decide. Do you want to be on the wets? Do you want to be on the slicks? Do it whenever you want, however you want. That really made it interesting at the end.
That was sick as hell. We've been asking for that for a long time, so I'm very happy we were finally at that point with these wet weather tires. The only thing I'm asking for NASCAR now, give us some damn consistency. Can we have some consistency? Because we know these aren't rain tires, and we keep treating them like, hey, we can just send these guys occasionally out in the rain, whether it's here in Chicago, but in Charlotte, when I need some tickets to cash and some long shots to play out the full 600 laps, it doesn't happen. So,
the biggest difference is it's oval versus road course. The technology's been tested on the road courses. We've used it multiple times now, and we know that it works. So on road courses, I think it's fair game. You can start in the wet, you can run in the wet, not in the bunch of spray downpour. But on the ovals, Charlotte is too high speed an oval to try it, at least at this point. The technology is not there, if it ever will be there. Very unsafe. Charlotte's fast enough. And at Loudon, it was the first time it's been done on ovals, not just to start a race, dry the track, move on to the slicks. So I understand the, hands off, let NASCAR dictate it there. But now the road courses, it's good enough. And thankfully, it's good enough now that we can go out there and truly put on a damn good show, regardless of the weather. And thankfully this year, they got all the activities in. We had a beautiful day for Xfinity. Now, assuming it comes back next year, just rain, go away, come again any other weekend to Chicago, just not when NASCAR's there.
Yep. I mean, yeah, it sucks sometimes for things not to go your way, especially when you're putting your own cold hard cash on the line. But
Yeah.
at the same time, this was a wonderful event. I've heard from so many people in the industry how this brought out a bunch of new fans to NASCAR.
Yep.
I felt like we had some potential new fans even watching our show last week who were interested in Chicago. So really cool to see that. I heard the concerts were great. So really, really happy. And I know you and I are kind of trying to circle something for next year. And hey, can we get out there? Can it not be the week before Pocono? But let's close the door there on Chicago and let's talk about some recent news here in the industry, Elliot. Starting with Noah Gragson, signs a multi-year deal with Front Row Motorsports. Great to see this bounce back from Gragson. We've always known this kid is super talented. Some people forget that, hey, a long time ago, he had 8 race wins in Xfinity back in 2022. Comes into Cup, raced a lot in Cup in 2022 that same year, part-time with like guys like Beard, Colleague, HMS when Bowman was out for a little bit, and then just really regressed last season with Legacy. But he's been back, average finish of 18.3, 6 top 10s this season, more than Almirola had in that 10 car all last year. How do you feel about this move for Noah Gragson? Because I just don't know what they're surrounding with him. It feels like Drew Blickensturfer has been really good as that crew chief for him. But Travis Peterson, also a great crew chief in that number 34 car. So how do you think it shakes out here?
Right. From what I've heard, Peterson is probably going to go to Spire with McDowell. Obviously, they made another crew chief change there. We'll get to in a little bit. I think it's a good move for Gragson. We knew that, one of those Stewart Haas guys at least was going to end up at Front Row. Gragson getting that opportunity on a team that's up and coming. I think he really can be the cornerstone and the superstar of that team. With all due respect to Todd Gilliland, I think Gragson definitely has more superstar potential. Like you said, 8 wins in Xfinity in 22 and more heading back to that. Getting back in a good competitive car. We know SHR is not what it was. FRM is on the upswing, and really this can only be good for both of them. We'll see what the sponsorship is, what the car number is. At this point, it doesn't matter. It's getting good drivers in fast cars in situations to win, probably bringing over a lot of that number 10 team from SHR, and it'll be exciting to see how this turns out.
Who's this third Front Row Motorsports driver, do you think, Elliot? We're kind of hearing rumblings right now. Could it be Zane Smith? We know what he can do in Front Row Motorsports equipment. Won a truck title with them a couple years ago. Christian Eckes, Sam Mayer, also kind of potential candidates we're hearing right now. Is there one name that sticks out to you if you had to lay some money down on it?
Yeah, I don't hate the thought of Eckes or Mayer, but I do think Zane Smith coming back would be the match made in heaven. It really does seem like if the charter thing stays the way it is, that you're going to be limited to 3 charters. We know that SVG is probably going to be priority over Zane Smith at Trackhouse, and they're going to keep Suarez and keep Ross, and they've got Connor Zilic and others in the pipeline. They may just have to be like, Zane, we're sorry, bud. We didn't expect this to happen. You can go ahead and do what you want to do. Take this good opportunity, because I think Trackhouse is obviously a little better than Front Row, but I do think it's a hell of a lot closer than we thought it would be. So Zane going back there in that third car would be neat to see, especially because the connection's already been there.
And he's been a lot better lately. He had a very, very poor start to the season. Last 5 or 6 races, I know things are skewed after that Nashville second place, but he's been really improving. So it's great to see that. And, hopefully they can kind of rekindle that relationship a little bit and pick it up where it last left off. So excited to see how things play out there. Also in the NASCAR world this week, some news I don't think any of us were expecting. Rodney Childers joined Spire Motorsports in 2025. The crew chief, Corey Lajoie. Damn, total bummer for me. Like, I was really hoping he was going to link back up with Josh Berry. But to me, it says 2 things. One, Spire's not fucking around. They are throwing the bag at whoever they have to improve their program. And 2, Corey Lajoie is on the clock starting now. You can't be 31st in points, 1 top 10, when Carson Hocevar, a rookie, is 25th in points after a goddamn penalty. So, get it together, Corey Lajoie. I think he has 1 year with Rodney to say, hey, let's get it together. I know he has a lot of funding. I know he has big support and a big fan base. But at the same time, they need results, and I think that's what this is saying to me.
And expecting, because Spire backed up the Brinks truck to his house and said, hey, bud, we're going to give you a legit amount of money, a great salary to come over here and crew chief, arguably their flagship car. They've run the 7 the longest, I believe, and they've had Lajoie around the longest too. And for Lajoie, like you said, put up or shut up time. He can no longer use the crew chief. He can no longer use the equipment as an excuse, because we know Rodney's going to throw out some good setups and some good cars. One of Rodney's earliest, brightest moments as a crew chief before the SHR deal comes together back in Chicagoland Speedway, and I think it was 2011, goes out there and completely dominates with David Rudiman, a guy who really was on nobody's radar. I don't think he ever won another cup race. He had the rain-shortened 2009 Coke 600, but to go out there with a guy sort of on a similar talent level as Lajoie, really all they need is win one race, and Lajoie is set for multiple years in that car. But they definitely won't be 31st in points one way or another. And if Lajoie doesn't make it happen next year, if Childers wants to stay, they're going to be able to get somebody a lot better in that car, especially if McDowell runs well for them next year and Hocevar continues to run well for them. It's going to be obvious then that the problem is Lajoie, if that is the case.
Absolutely. Speaking of the problem here, dude, Hailie, Deegan, and AM Racing officially parting ways. We touched on this last week, and I don't think we had the full story, so I'm kind of glad we can go back to it a little bit. But listen, man, it hasn't been great for Hailie in this car. Average finish of 26.8 this season. Only 3 top 20s this entire year in 17 races. Logano finished P8 last week at Chicago in this car, but it was like he was really working on it. He really had to kind of drive through the field multiple times. And I think we also learned, Elliot, that maybe this crew chief might not be the best too. I know you kind of heard of a situation on the deep dark web of NASCAR Twitter, if you want to explain that a little bit.
Yeah, so I think really, like we said, the split was to figure out if Hailie was the problem or if AM was the problem, and I think it's kind of twofold. There was a situation, somebody was listening to that 15 radio in Chicago, and there was a deal where Joey Logano kind of had to over-explain sort of the setup problems he was feeling. The crew chief couldn't quite figure out how to take what the feedback Logano was giving and put it toward making the car better. Logano had to kind of over-explain himself there. I don't have exactly what the problem was in front of me, but it is kind of twofold, because I do think obviously that Hailie Deegan is still lacking in experience and lacking in some talent there, being in good truck rides and never really being able to do well. But it also shows that maybe she was obviously not intentionally set up for failure, but that this was never going to go all that well with a team like AM that clearly is struggling at some point. This week, they're going to have Josh Berry in the car, another guy who knows his shit, knows what he's doing. Even if Pocono isn't Berry's best track, he's going to continue to help them along. And whether it's Berry for an extended period of time, whether they go in and out, every Ford driver, go ahead and take a turn in this car, see what you think. Whatever they end up doing with it, I think it's going to help AM for the future. And Hailie Deegan, she's still got funding behind her. I'm sure Ford is still supporting her. The problem is Ford just doesn't have much of an Xfinity team present. I wonder if maybe next team is going to stay with Ford. Are they going to be? We're curious that AM Racing doesn't go out and really light the world on fire. It's going to show that Hailie does have some, it's going to show that she was not clearly the only problem in that car.
Yeah. We'll see what happens here. I think the good thing for Hailie Deegan, she still does have a lot of financial backing, both from Ford, Monster, and the Deegan family. Also has a lot of fan backing as well. And
yes,
it hasn't worked out in the truck series. I mean, 5 top 10s in 3 full years, no top 5s. So it has kind of been tough sledding, but we know this girl's talented. Won a couple ARCA West races in 2018, 2019. So kind of hoping she can pick the pieces up together and, salvage what's left of a potential really good career. But we need more women drivers in NASCAR, man. So she's important to the sport, and I want to see her succeed.
Right. And it really seems like her fan base is completely undeterred by this, which is great. And we've seen that before. I mean, Dale Earnhardt Jr. went 4 years without winning a race in one of NASCAR's best cars. And he probably didn't lose a single fan out of that. Probably gained fans over that time rather than that. So I think that Deegan does have the support behind her. And we'll see where she ends up, whether she's got to sit the rest of this year out and start again next year or able to get something this year. We'll just have to see.
I totally agree with you there, Elliot. Let's go ahead, though. Let's break down the tricky triangle. Check your messages from me here in the private chat as well as we go ahead through this drop. But yeah, let's break down the tricky triangle. Excited to get up here to Pocono here in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. Let's break it down here in Horizon Forecast.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
Yeah, man. Sorry for that shout out there. You know, we're traveling here, and now my camera just went out.
Oh, all good. I'm gonna
Sure. Yeah.
throw Elliot off here. Elliot, if you want to try to reconnect, back sync up, but I'll start previewing Pocono for us. Elliot's on the move. He's traveling, so having some issues there with his Wi-Fi, and his camera just went out on him as well. But let's talk about Pocono, guys, and also want to shout out the IBT family members who just came in. Charles, what's up, Charles? Good to see you, man. Saying what's up, gents. Thankful to be here with you guys tonight. We're thankful for you as well, Chuck. I know you were just on a cruise here a couple weeks ago, so hope you enjoyed that. Hope you got a little R&R. Put a couple beers back for me. Chuck, hey man, we want to see the best for Deegan, buddy. I know she hasn't been the best so far, but you know we got to root for her, buddy. We got to root for her. We need more people like her. Also need more people like Dee saying, "Hey, buddy, sorry I'm late to the party. Trying to buy a house out of state." Hey, all good, Dee. We appreciate you coming in with a $20 super sticker as well. And Charles throwing out ones today as well, $9.99, saying excited to hear some best bets tonight. Oh, we got it for you. We got it for you. Good luck with your lake house purchase here, Dee, as well. Bringing Elliot back here on screen. And Andrew saying, I can send you guys Deegan, former crew chief's responses as he responded on Facebook. Yeah, I would love to hear what he said. I heard TJ Majors a little bit weigh in on this on Dale Jr. download earlier this week, Elliot, and like he still believes in her as well.
Yeah, I was able to listen to that on my drive in. You know, my family's with an hour away from Pocono. Split up that drive from Pittsburgh a little bit, puts me in a different spot tonight. Apologies again for the technical difficulties. But yeah, I didn't hear if there was a response from the crew chief. You know, only seeing one side of the story. It didn't look that great. Nose and
All right, Ellie, I'm throwing you back out. Go on your hotspot of your phone and come back in here because you're lagging like a mother effer. So I don't want to put the IBT family through that. But appreciate everyone hanging out with us tonight. Let's talk Pocono here because I think this is a really, really important track. One, it's one of the only independent tracks left on the schedule, which is super cool. We really appreciate everything that they're doing. And this is a 2.5 mile tricky triangle. So there's 3 main turns. It's a big flat triangle oval. It's asphalt as well. There's really only one primary comp that I could say I would really compare Pocono to, and that's Indianapolis, where we're going to go next week. So a lot of what you see at Pocono, you can probably translate next week for our episode next week as well. And then Indianapolis, however, though, at the same time, we have no data since 2020 there. So kind of tough to comp it a little bit. We do have Michigan from a big horsepower perspective. That's kind of what you can take from Michigan and compare it a little bit. So I really looked at Pocono stats and I really looked at Michigan stats. Recent form can go a little ways. Like momentum does matter, I think, in NASCAR, but it still can't be everything as well. So just some things to keep in mind. Like this is a kind of a tougher one, a little bit to handicap, guys, just because we have to go off Pocono. We have to go off of Michigan from last season. We really don't have any 2024 comps to go through. So we're going to do our best, though. And this is one of those tracks, drivers and equipment rise to the top. So you're going to have those 4 HMS cars, those 4 JGR cars. We know they're going to be fast. And then some other guys who are just really good at this track as well. Breaking down the schedule for y'all on Friday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, truck race. This is CRC Brakleen 175. That's a brake cleaner. I had to Google that because I was very curious what that was. But so the one thing I'll say about the truck race, guys, this might begin push to Saturday morning. We're seeing a little bit of rain potentially up in the Long Pond area tomorrow night. Kind of a weird time to have this race. Pocono does not have lights. That's another thing to keep in mind here. With 5:30, there's not really a lot of time to, put anything in, throw a red flag and delay this race if they do get it started. So maybe they'll call it early. They did last year. I remember just as I was getting into the track, they called the truck and the ARCA race. So maybe no truck race tomorrow, but still, regardless, truck practice is like 2 p.m. If you want to be betting trucks, get your slips in now as soon as you can. Let's talk about Saturday, 12 p.m. Eastern time, cup practice and qualifying. Make sure you guys are plugged into the IBT YouTube channel as well over the weekend. We're going to be having updates after practice, after qualifying. So make sure you're tuned in there. 3 p.m. is going to be the Xfinity race. Explore the Poconos Mountains 225. That'll be at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Pretty cool entry list for that. William Byron's going to be in that. We'll talk about that a little bit here later on. And then Sunday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, the Cup race, the Great American Getaway 400, lap 30, lap 95, lap 160. Those are the stage breaks for this. And goddamn, am I pumped that good old visitpa.com is sponsoring this one, Elliot. Good to have you back here, especially as we're talking Pocono and our state, man. It's good to have our state represented here at the race this weekend.
Yeah, and really cool that the state government and everything, the state tourism board is on board here. Great American Getaway. You really can't ask for anything better than that. And hopefully we got my issues fixed now. Seth, watching your great breakdown there, didn't drop out at once, so
Yeah.
Hopefully we're set now.
Yeah. Let's talk a couple trends here as well, Elliot. I was really excited to look back at Pocono because it is one of those racetracks that there's just those dogs, there's just those guys who show up each and every single year. A guy we're going to talk about a shit ton tonight, Denny Hamlin, third in all-time starting position here, 7.588. He's the only one of active drivers on that list. Also owns the all-time active poles here as well. He has 4. Rowdy also has 4. Hendrick Motorsports and JGR, we talked about them a minute ago. They're the guys you're going to want to watch here on Saturday as well to potentially sit up front here, Elliot. They have 14 and 12 poles among the two of them.
Yeah, I mean, Toyota's gotten the bulk of wins here, as you'll talk about, but those guys definitely really good in qualifying, and it doesn't really get any better than Denny Hamlin here at Pocono. Like you said, it's going to be far from the last time his name is said on this pod tonight.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed there. Looking at some race trends, Denny Hamlin leads all actives with Pocono's wins with 7. Would be 8 if you count the tape issue there in 2022 that got him DQ'd there, and Kyle Busch as well in that one. 9 active drivers have won here, and we've actually seen 4 first-time Cup Series winners here at Pocono, which I was surprised to see that number, Elliot. Jeremy Mayfield, back in the year I was born, 1998. Denny
rattled Dale Earnhardt's cage a little bit, if you remember in that one.
Yeah. Denny Hamlin in 06 as well. Chris Buescher, 16. I think that was the fog race.
That was the fog race. Yep.
Yeah, got called because of fog. And then Ryan Blaney in 17 back. Was that Wood Brothers, one of their last wins?
That's their most recent win, was win number 99 for them. And if it can't come this year with Harrison Burton, Josh Berry ought to be able to get them their 100th final.
Yeah. So I just want to file that trend out there because that I might be picking a couple first-time winners here on the card this week.
We've got a couple that have looked good at Pocono in the past that we'll discuss. We certainly could be seeing a 5th one come Sunday.
Yes. And speaking of HMS, JGR, they lead the series with 19 wins for HMS and 17 for JGR here at Pocono. Nobody else has won in the last 4 races here. Winners generally come from towards the front of the grid here. Pole 17.8% of the time. Front row about 29% of the time. Top 5, 55.6% of the time. Top 10, 70%. That's a little bit higher than the averages. Usually you're getting closer to 50, closer to like 65 for the top 10, but nothing too crazy there, I would say, Elliot. But we still want to be guys like the guys who are generally fast on Sunday. They don't always show up. They don't always pull it, but generally top 15 cars on Saturday. Yeah,
for sure. It's going to be important to see how guys do in practice and qualifying. Again, it always is to a point every week, but at Pocono, especially with these stats, we're kind of getting back to more, the last couple of tracks, it's been, well, you can qualify well, but half the winners come from outside the top 10. Here, it's definitely a little more regression to the mean at the very least.
Yeah, 100% agreed there. Charles saying, so you're saying Kyle Busch is going to look good in the stats from previous years, but that's not necessarily the case this year. Yeah, not the case. He wasn't good last year, and the year before that he got DQ'd. So not on Kyle Busch. I know our guy Ozzy is though. Andrew saying usually ARCA runs Friday, but this year they aren't, so they moved trucks to Friday instead of the normal doubleheader on Saturday with Xfinity truck. Yeah, I remember we were just getting there, and we saw all the ARCA guys walk out of the building. Didi said, if you haven't already liked and subscribed and ring that bell, make sure you're doing it. Always great to have new people in the IBT family. We greatly appreciate all of you. Charles also saying he's been subscribed and notified from the channel for a couple months now. We appreciate it, man. We greatly appreciate you. And Alfred weighing in the chat. Good to see you, Alfred Banks, saying all over Tyler Reddick this week. Last week did not work out so well.
Not close, though.
We'll talk about Reddick. Alfred, I have nothing on the card for him, but I do like him this week. I do think he's gonna be a top 5 card, but it's always with him and Bell I struggle to bet, Elliot, because every time I get in bed with them, it's like last week with Bell, running good, top 5 car, and doesn't get the finish, and it burns every prop I have on him.
Yeah, you might hear some more about Reddick later from one of us here. And if you don't have him on your card, that can kind of tell you who that is. And shout out DD too, doing our jobs for us, shouting out the fam and
Yeah.
reminding them to hit that notification.
Yeah, we don't have to tell them. We appreciate you guys. Asterisk Mark Driver of the Week is presented by ifantasyrace.com. Really appreciate everything Ryan and his gang do every single week for us here at IBT and everyone in the NASCAR betting and DFS community. Great resource. If you haven't checked out ifantasyrace.com, make sure you do it. This is from their Asterisk Mark Driver report. He puts this out every week. The driver I wanted to highlight here, and I think it's a good one because people forget the last year at this race, Joey Logano won stage 1, Elliot, led 21 laps, and then on the restart of stage 2, ended up kind of getting backed up into the teens on pit strategy, crashed with Suarez, finished 35th in this one. However, Logano is the 3rd fastest car on the track prior to that incident. Were you surprised, I feel like, to see Logano so high up in the speed rankings early before that crash?
Yeah, I had totally forgotten he'd won stage 1 for, the end of that race was so memorable for other reasons that we'd kind of forgotten about the whole Logano thing. I forgot he was that fast, and everybody remembers his kind of breakdown on the radio when the truck guys couldn't figure out. He probably just needed to tow back to pit road and change the tires, but ended up not working out and being a little more damaged than he thought anyway. So yeah, Logano definitely showing some good numbers here that clearly were overshadowed by other events last year in the race, even when we were there watching it as close as you can get.
A lot of drama, that's for sure. So always good talking points for the media afterwards. But yeah, guys, as we said, looking at the trends, looking at everything, we're going to be having some big horsepower. We're going to be looking at our comp track in Michigan a lot. And then it's tricky triangle shit. It's tricky triangle. Who's good here at Pocono? Who's good here at Long Pond? And why don't we tell them who we think is going to be good here this weekend, Elliot, and throw out a couple bets here.
Let's go ahead and put it in park and bring on the parking garage props. Impressions of the books this week. Things seem pretty normal to me. What I will say, though, is taking my first look at the Action Network, as I usually do, which compiles all of the site sportsbooks and stuff. Every single week, I'm finding the best value on FanDuel. It's really the place to be, it seems like. They've got the cash out option for you. And, obviously the first eight of the first 9 numbers on here are all, this is from FanDuel. So they're really throwing out some good value. It's not a sponsored ad. It's just they seem to really have, something on Caesars is going to be a little lower than these FanDuel numbers. I don't get it, but I got to throw some more on there for sure.
Most of my card is FanDuel, Caesars. I have a little bit of Bet Rivers. I thought they were doing a fair job as well, but especially in the outright market, Elliot, you're right. Yes. FanDuel has been just crushing it lately. So we really, really appreciate them, and that was a pretty uncommon thing for a while. We didn't see a lot of FanDuel for about a year and a half, really, that was putting out good stuff. Let's go ahead, though. Let's talk outrights here. Who do you like?
We have to start with the 2 most obvious ones, and you're going to be drinking juice, but it's going to be a tasty little Tropicana glass. Denny Hamlin is at plus 470 over there in FanDuel, and Kyle Larson at plus 650. We've already talked about Denny, and we'll continue to talk about Denny. This man's the king of Pocono. Won his first 2 races here, has 7 total wins, 8 total times crossing the finish line first. He's just dominant here, and Kyle Larson, really should have been here.
Looks like we lost Elliot again, guys. I apologize. We'll get him back up here. As you were saying about Kyle Larson, he hasn't won quite yet here, but he's been damn fast. Almost a couple years ago as well, Elliot. Bowman kind of got his win, kind of like snake bit, like a little bit from Larson there.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, and I didn't even see anything go out. This is just interesting, but hopefully we can stay up here. But yeah, Bowman was another guy I have on the card here, 3,400 for his outright on FanDuel. Obviously, he hadn't won in 2 years, but he gets it back, gets finally back on the winning card and the Chicago Street Course. Can he go back to back? He's run no worse than 11th at Pocono, short of again last year. He tangled with Denny a little bit before Denny and Larson tangled, so he ended up in the 20s last year, but no worse than 11th with a couple of top 10s and a top 5 or 2 in the last few years before that.
So my question to you is, do you think Larson can actually beat Hamlin? Because I think if Hamlin's running second and Larson's winning this, I don't think he gets across the line, man. I think Hamlin has shown his hand before. That's why I have no Kyle Larson in my card, because I'm scared. I'm honestly scared.
I like that, but I think this would be the week. I think that if it's Hamlin number 1, Larson number 2, white flag within striking distance, I think that 11's coming back on a record more likely than it is heading to victory lane. I think this is a good week that Larson will send it into the tunnel turn, if that happens, especially because I'm assuming Denny probably has kind of roughed him up to get past him in a case like that if Larson's the dominant car. I really think that, especially the 5 maybe getting egged on the radio by a spotter a little more. I think especially after last year too, this would be the week that I think that Larson would finally make his move and get a little dirty there with Denny.
So I don't mind the call, but I am going to back Hamlin, and I actually got him 5-1 on FanDuel earlier today. So
okay,
like that line is seeing action everywhere. I've seen it reopen last night at plus 475. It was originally down at 450. It reopened last night at 5-1. I made sure to jump on that. But I think right now, like, it's worth the price. I put 2 units down. He's won 4 of the last 7 races here, if you count that DQ in 2022. Number 1 in the Pocono Next Gen Total Speed rankings. And also, when you look at Michigan's the one comp track we can throw to. Finished 3rd there the past 2 seasons. Number 1 in the Next Gen Total Speed rankings at Michigan. And I think he's had this one circled for a while, man. He's been on a little bit of a losing skid. Bad finishes for him in the rain. And this is what he said to end Actions Detrimental this week. Man, going to Pocono. There's no wet weather tires at Pocono, and there's no wet weather tires coming at Indy. These next 2 weeks, it's on, baby. It's on. Like, he's not calling a shot like he did it when we were at Dover, but that was pretty damn close.
Yeah, and honestly, if you want to go on the superstitious route, if the stats aren't enough for you to back Denny Hamlin, IBT has covered 2 races in person. Pocono last year, Dover this year. Who ended up in victory lane in both of them? Denny Hamlin.
Denny Hamlin. Yep. I think vibes are high over there, man. I'm gonna ride it. I'm also on a top 3 plus 160 at FanDuel. That's probably not there. You're probably gonna maybe plus 150 now if that outrights move down. But go to FanDuel for those, because everywhere else you're gonna maybe get a plus 125, plus 130 for a top 3. I think plus 160 is value. So I'm jumping on Hamlin there. Anyone else from an outright perspective you'd like to mention? We've talked about your guy Bowman. We've talked about your guy Larson. We've talked about Denny. Anyone else you're throwing a little coin on?
But one other thing on the Denny outright, even in my Between Bets article that came out today, he was only 4-1 on DraftKings, and I still thought that was good enough to recommend because he's just been so damn good here, and he's more likely to be the one to cause trouble and get to victory lane because of it than end up the victim of somebody else's trouble. The other outright I'm thinking about is Tyler Reddick, 11-1 over on FanDuel. We know that he's a guy who really beats himself up after making mistakes or coming up just short. Arguably would have won that race last week if he doesn't hit the wall in 5, or at the very least gets there to have a damn good fighting chance. Pocono's been pretty good to him, tied for 4th in the total speed ranking in the next gen era. Usually the bigger, faster tracks have been pretty good for 2311, and Reddick's consistency has continued to grow. I think I saw earlier today he's 3rd in the regular season points, which is the best the 2311 car has ever been. So I think the 45 is trending up. We know he beats himself up after making mistakes and taking cars out of victory lane. What's the easiest thing to do? Get a car in victory lane, get over those past times. And I think I kind of don't hate both of the Monster cars, or at least cars that normally are sponsored by Monster. I don't have in front of me who's going to be on those cars this week, but of the 2, I think I like the 45 a little better.
Yeah, I like the 54 actually. I like the 45 a lot. And I think I might be having a FOMO bet now that everyone else seems, because in the research he pops. I have trouble betting Tyler Reddick personally. I just can't get this guy right a lot of the time. So it's more of a me thing than a he thing.
And I love Ty Gibbs for a top 5 plus 190 on Caesars. I think that's definitely a lot better, but it's just one of those things. Until a guy gets a first win, can you bet on him to win? But we've seen if it's going to be anybody, it's going to be, he ran, I think, last year.
Yeah, and the thing I like about Ty Gibbs, so I'm on that top 5 as well at Caesars, but you can actually get it boosted for plus 225. You can also find I think it bet Rivers for plus 225, non-boosted as well. So
Oh,
shop around that top 5 price. I got him on an outright at Bet Rivers, 14-1 with top 5 insurance, meaning that if he finishes top 5, if he doesn't get the win, he can still give you a bonus bet back. What I like about Ty Gibbs specifically this week, Elliot, finished P2 in his Pocono Xfinity starts, his 2 starts here, P2 in both of them. 2 years ago, it looked like he was going to win that race. Noah Gragson ends up passing him late in the race and getting it done. And I remember, if you remember, I looked at my notes from last year after Cup practice and qualifying. We were there. We both circled Ty Gibbs' name. He looked really good. He finished fifth in that race, 5th in the total speed rankings. Also started 3rd at Michigan last year and finished P11. And I think if you're going to get in on Ty Gibbs, you need to go on him now because he's top 4 in the series in average starting position this season. He's got a lot of momentum coming off of Chicago as well. So we didn't see a lot from him in that first start at Pocono in the Cup Series because he's filling in for Kurt Busch kind of on shorter notice.
Literally thrown in that weekend because Kurt had crashed in qualifying.
Yeah, so I think you throw that out of the way. You got a 5th place here in the Cup Series, and you have 2 seconds in the Xfinity Series. So I like Ty Gibbs a lot here.
Yeah, I don't have the number in front of me, but maybe even the Ty Gibbs poll bet could be worth looking at because I have no doubt he'll be in that final 10 when we hit the final round come Saturday qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. That might be a good look there as well. Anything else for you here in placements or outrights that we haven't touched on?
We can fully move over to placements. I've got some top 10s that could be worth shouting out.
Yeah, sure. What do you got, man?
I think the top 10 market looks pretty neat this week. This one's a little riskier because the past stats have been good, but the more recent stats haven't been. But I've got a couple Kyle Busch bets worth considering here on my card. He's at even money for a top 10 over on Caesars. Obviously, he's had the good stats here, had multiple wins. Last year was a problem. He ran mid-20s basically all day in RCR equipment. I might be getting fooled into the same way that I was at Bristol, where I thought, oh, Kyle Busch has kicked ass at Bristol. He's won a million times there before. How is he not going to run up front again? And obviously, he didn't get the win there. I don't remember how good he was or how bad he was in that tire strategy. But we've already talked about RCR has had their troubles. For the driver, I like it. For the team, maybe not so much. At even money, it's probably worth the coin flip, though. Another top 10 I have to talk about here first. How are you not throwing money on the Todd Gilliland top 10 every single week now? We're still all the way.
Oh, all right. Seeing Elliot cut out there a little bit again here. We'll see if we can get him back up. And yeah, I don't mind a Todd Gilliland play at all, man. Honestly, I really don't. Todd G has been fast here. I don't know, like really good here in the Truck Series, I believe, at Pocono too. I think does he have a win? I know he's been good here, Elliot.
He's been strong. I don't know if he has the win. The 2 stats I have down here, he finished 15th last year in this race and was 7th at the Chicago Street Course.
Yeah. Can't hate that, man. Can't hate that at all. I'll throw out a top 10 here that I'm already down on currently for half a unit. I also did take a small, tiny nibble on the outright. I think it's just ludicrous. Josh Berry outright 90-1 on FanDuel, 0.1 of a unit for me. You can get him 100-1 other places, but again, FanDuel is going to give you that cash out. So if he does even start top 5, you're probably going to get a cash out right away. Also that top 10 plus 375 at Caesars. I think that's ludicrous for a guy who's 3 Xfinity starts here and has been awesome every single time. Pulled it last year, swept the stages, led 51 laps. I thought he was going to go to victory lane. I remember watching that race with you. Number 1 in green flag speed by segment, and driver rating. And let's also not forget, man, Rodney Childers, while he's going to be gone at the end of the season, he still has him for the next, 20 or so races. This is going to be a guy who knows how to rig up a car. Harvick's last win came at our comp track of Michigan. We can't forget that. And also finished 4th in that sweet Busch Light Peach car last year. So let's fucking roll Josh Berry here. Again, I'm not getting overly invested on him, 0.6 of a unit in total, but yeah, I think he's worth a look in both those markets.
Yeah, and the only Ford win here since 2017 was Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childers in 2020. I mean, he was good last year at Pocono. Like I said, it was he, or like you said, it was he and Allgaier that kind of got tangled up, and Austin Hill ended up going to victory lane last year in Xfinity. I just don't know that SHR is going to be quite as good as JRM was, but those are some real deep numbers that I think are worth sprinkling on for a guy like Barry.
Agreed. And anything else for you here in placements that we haven't mentioned? All right, Elliot's cutting out again here. I'm gonna keep it moving here, and I'm gonna go to the matchups and groups. I have a couple here that I'm actually really interested in. The first one is Ty Gibbs over Chase Elliott, and I get it. It's NASCAR's golden boy. It's the chosen child. But I think Ty Gibbs here is a little bit undervalued plus money, or even money, excuse me, over at Caesars. And I think this should be closer to a pick 'em. Chase finished 10th in this race last year, but 15th in the total speed rankings compared to the Ty's 5. Driver rating of 86.5 for Chase in that race. Gibbs had a 110.7. Average position of 14.1 to 8.6 of Ty's. Ty's also 2-0 against him at Michigan in the Cup Series as well. And one of those was coming in his not full season as well. So I'm interested in Ty Gibbs. It's risky. I will say that Chase Elliott has been a lot better this season. He's in comparable equipment, but at even money, I got to go unit and a half on it for me.
Yeah, I certainly don't hate that. I kind of like both Ty and Chase in something this week. Group B over at Caesars has both the 54 and the 9 at plus 300 to finish over Martin Truex Jr., who's a plus 210, and William Byron, who's a plus 240. Their numbers are all right here, but they're not quite as good as the 54 and the 9. I think them being the long shots in that group, it's worth taking that number.
I don't mind the Ty play there. And oh my God, it only took you 20 races to start fading Martin Truex Jr. a little bit. I feel like you've lost more money on fucking MTJ this year than anybody. Holy cow. Like talk about a heel turn after last year. He was just a cash cow for us. So a little bit of fade in there. Alfred saying, I love Ty Gibbs over Chase Elliott. I just think the pricing's wrong. I just think the pricing's wrong on that one, man. I think it should be closer to a pick 'em, I think, for me. Another matchup I like, Trackhouse, minus 115 over RCR. I'm down on a unit already. Suarez's stats actually really pop here at Pocono. Finished third here in 2022. Also 6th at Michigan, our comp track last year. Ross was 7th at Michigan, 13th at Pocono. Rowdy was arguably the biggest disappointment for me at Pocono last season. Finished 21st. Austin Dillon was 34th in that race. But dude, Kyle just did not show up in the Cup Series last year. I don't think the RCR equipment with this high horsepower package is worth a shit. So I'm fading Kyle Busch a little bit this week. Also, no RCR car finished better than 19th at Michigan last year. That was Austin Dillon who was 19th in that race. So I don't think this should be a pick 'em either. I think Trackhouse should be favored heavily.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds about even because we just don't know if Suarez is going to be all that great here. Ross has kind of been back and forth here. Driver, I think you're right. The equipment probably isn't up to snuff.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I also think you're just getting a 2-for-1. I think Suarez can at least be somewhat, somewhat capable. All right, let's go ahead. Anything else for you for Cup Series that we haven't thrown? Any matchups or any specials?
One matchup that I thought was a bit of a misprice, and of course, call me the Bowman guy. I don't have the glasses on me, otherwise I'd put him on there. But him against Bubba Wallace, if you want the nice little rival matchup here, FanDuel has Bubba at minus 172 and Bowman at plus 134, which I think is a wild number for them to be that far apart that I saw over there on action. They both run just about evenly here. Bowman's 8th, Bubba's 9th in the speed ranking. They both ran, mid to back top 10 most of the time. The last couple of years, even their finishes have been too similar for that number to really make sense. So maybe, I don't know if that was even the Action Network just giving me a weird price there. You had a confused look on your face, but those are the numbers I saw when I wrote it down. So that's the number.
I was just surprised to see wild. It, honestly. Yeah. I mean, it feels like a pick 'em to me. It feels like a pick 'em, and you're playing the number there. There's definitely some risk, I think, involved with that play. But also, Bubba's kind of going for broke right now too. So if he's up towards the top 3 or 4, he could get into some trouble. While Bowman has that win, he can kind of just focus now on getting stage points, positioning himself better in the playoffs. So don't hate that at all. Alfred in the chat asking if we like Logano this week. I'll play him in DFS. Like we said, he won stage 1 last year here. I don't hate Logano, but not enough to bet him at his current prices, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing that I really saw that was great for Logano. I mean, we'll see what his DFS price is when we get to the next section there, but I just don't know if I would really love Logano. And I really don't love Ford this week. It's a really good week to fade Ford. Like I said, dating back to Ryan Blaney's win in
Yeah.
2017, the only one they've won has been Harvick in 2020. Otherwise, it's been largely Toyota with a couple of sprinkles of Chevy.
Yeah, agreed. Bob saying 23 and 48 top 10. I don't know. I would Bowman top 10 I would flirt with. I don't know if I could really get behind Bubba like for a top 10. Wallace even over Bush minus 130.
Yes.
I would
Yes.
mm,
I,
mm.
I like that. Even's not my favorite number, but being the favorite over Rowdy with just how shitty RCR has looked. If it was just the drivers, if there was any sort of upside to Kyle Busch at Pocono that we saw last year, I'd be more lenient to not really heavily favor Bubba, but I do like Wallace over Busch there for sure.
I think that's a little bit of a sweat bet just because like you better hope fucking Bubba doesn't get anywhere near the front or he's going around probably. Like you got to hope he's like in 5th to 10th with that one. You got to hope he's kind of right in that range. So I don't mind it at that price, Chuck. I think it's a decent look. So I think that's a good shout out there. I imagine you got that over on Bovada. If not, let us know if that's on a different book. I would, potentially take a look over that. Anything else for you, Elliot?
I've got two specials if we want to shout those out.
Yeah, shout them.
So the first special, race going to overtime, is plus 400. Chaos really seems to stack in the Cup Series. It stacked earlier in the year. We had a bunch in a row go to overtime. The last 2 weeks have been chaotic. Nashville was a complete fucking mess. And Chicago was arguably a complete mess too at the end. So, we've seen Pocono races come down to some late race shenanigans. I think 4-1's a number to look at to go to overtime. And I was talking about fading Ford. I think we fade the fuck out of Ford. We go under 2.5 Fords in the top 10 is at plus 150. Last year, there were only 2 Fords in the top 10 in this race.
Okay, let's do this exercise here. What Blaney, maybe, Logano, maybe, Busher and Kez, like those are really the only four maybe a Gilliland. Man.
Yeah. And even last year in that top 10, one of those 2 Fords that were in the top 10 was Harrison Burton. So
yeah.
Total fluke. I don't think he had top 10 speed in that race.
I'd have to give that one another look. That's not a bad shout out though. I don't mind the fading Ford this week. Kez's numbers are actually pretty nice here though. Kez would probably be my favorite, like my top Ford pick if he said, gun to the head pick someone. I haven't looked at the numbers for that market, but yeah.
I think it's Brad and either Logano or Blaney that really have the chance. I wanted to try to get a Busher number this week. He's been mid-teens to 20s at Pocono outside of the fog win.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to get anything from Cindric. You're probably not getting the top 10 from Justin Hailie this week. I'm finally off of that train, I think.
Oh, it's true. Andrew saying Barry. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, 2.5.
I still think you can line them up 11th, 12th, 13th. I don't care. I think only less than 2 are going to be in the top 10 or less than 3. Even.
Man, Now that, I don't think I can make that. If it was under 3.5, I think I'd hammer it. But even at plus 150 though, at plus 150, I'm not gonna hate on it at all.
That's one of the ones, like I said before on here.
All right, I think we lost Elliot again here. He's coming in and out. Kez top Ford plus 250. I'd like a better number than that. Can I get like a 3.5 to 1? 3 plus 375, Elliot? I just don't think I can get plus 250. It's a little short.
Way too short for me.
All right, let's talk Xfinity here. I got 2 units down. I'm late on Xfinity this week, guys. Like, this is a race. I'm going to be honest, Elliot. I think 8 or 9 guys could win this. This is a really, I have no outright play yet. I have one that I'm considering an outright, and I want to hear what the chat has to say, what you have to say about this guy before I put something down. Because this is another one I generally, we see a little craziness. Like, last year, the fastest car was not Austin Hill, and he won that race. So, do you have any outrights that you're eyeing that you're down on now? Because I do not in Xfinity.
I don't have any I'm down on right now, but you have to keep an eye on Austin Hill and Justin Allgaier. Hill is at 12 to 1, which I think is a pretty good number, especially for the defending winner. Even if he wasn't the fastest car, Justin Allgaier at 4 to 1, it's just always so tough for Allgaier because he's more snake bit in these races than anybody. Some weird shit happens to him, and more often than not, he's got the fastest car and does not win the race. And I'm also curiously optimistic for AJ Allmendinger this week. He's 28-1, and Pocono really can race like a road course sometimes. So there's some other road course guys that may be worth some numbers thrown out there. And we've seen AJ win on all types of tracks in Xfinity. If it was Cup, I sure as shit wouldn't consider an outright or even a top 5 or a top 10, which he's in the Cup race. I'm not really considering any of that. But in Xfinity, Kaulig's going to show up at some point with somebody other than SVG, and AJ pulling out a surprise win here at that number is worth a look for me.
Yeah, AJ was interesting. The one thing I have noted when I was rewatching these races this week, Daniel Hemrick is kind of a stud at Pocono. He's had really good runs in Kaulig equipment in the Xfinity series. I remember he was second for a long time. I think it was the 2022 race I was watching. No, maybe it was last year. I don't remember. One of the last two Xfinity races, Daniel Hemrick was running second for a long time. So I do kind of like Kaulig. I almost considered Danny Hem for a long shot top 10 in the Cup, but I couldn't get behind it enough. But I don't hate the Kaulig love there. He's getting some love in the chat. He's getting a lot of love in the chat. So I'm going to go to my top 5 play for this week. Jesse Love, top 5, plus 270 at Caesars. Bit of a shot in the dark here because we haven't seen it at Pocono on the Xfinity circuit. But top 5 in 2 straight races for him. Chicago, Nashville, been wheeling the shit out of that number 2 car over there and has had a ton of speed on these large tracks this season. Pulled Atlanta, pulled Daytona, won Dega. Austin Hill won this race last year in the RCR stable. So while they don't really have the speed for the Cup Series, they seem to have it in spades in Xfinity because Sheldon Creed was also top 5 in speed last year at this track. And let's not forget, Elliot, who won that ARCA race early there Saturday morning last year. It was Jesse Love, like obviously in the best equipment probably too, but kind of dominated that thing from start to finish. So plus 270, I've already bet that top 5. He's 22-1 outright. I haven't done it yet, but I was thinking if I was gonna sprinkle an outright, I think it was gonna be on Jesse Love. So does anyone else want to I looks like we're getting some love in the chat. You guys want to ride Jesse Love outright here? Is that maybe the move?
He wasn't one that I was going to shout out, but I have 2 other outrights here on my sheet. Jesse Love, 22-1 is one of them I was considering. So I liked the chat, maybe talking me back into that, even if I was going to skip over it.
Yeah. Cush, he's saying he likes RCR as well this week in the Xfinity series. Is it a Truex weekend, Elliot?
My other outright right here, Ryan Truex, 12-1. The chat's on it. The chat's learning my tendencies, or maybe the chat's just picking up some of the good ideas I've got.
Do you have any stats to back up Ryan Truex at Pocono, or is it more about what he's done here in the Xfinity series this season? Won at Dover earlier this year, and just really everywhere we go, this guy's really just a quality Xfinity series driver.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to back him up for Pocono, but I like the JGR cars. I like the Toyota cars, which also leads me to kind of join some of the chat I've seen on Twitter. And people are saying that Taylor Gray is really, really undervalued in that other Gibbs car. He's at 4-1 for a top 5. I like that a little better than a win. I don't know that I even like his truck series numbers as much, but I think the Gibbs cars and those Toyotas can be fast enough that he can get it done.
So I'm gonna have to go against you there, bud. I'm gonna be fading Taylor Gray. I'm gonna be honest. I think it's a hype thing, dude. And I think you just got caught up in the wave, my friend. I think you did. Outside of that really nice run that he had at Richmond earlier this season in the Xfinity series, Taylor Gray's kind of been cheeks in this series. Not cheeks, but average finish of 15.3 overall in the series. Only one top 10 that came at Richmond. I just don't think he's that good in the Xfinity car right now. It's great equipment. Don't get me wrong. But I'm going to fade him here. This probably my bet of the week. That's my bet of the week here. Brandon Jones, minus 110 at Caesars over Taylor Gray. And I've never bet on fucking Brandon Jones. Never bet on him personally. This guy's another guy, pianos kind of fall out of the sky for him. But pretty lit here at Pocono. Started 7th and finished 7th last year. Led 12 laps. 4th in green flag speed. 4th fastest late in a run. And 3rd in speed by segment. Was 2nd to Barry in driver rating last year as well. Driver rating really carries a lot of weight for me, and to be 2nd at Pocono means something. He's also qualified inside the top 7 in 6 straight Pocono races. He's 4 for 4 scoring stage points in the last 2 Pocono races. So I like him for 1.2 units over Taylor Gray, minus 110 on Caesars. And also I took a nibble. Brandon Jones, top 5, plus 400 at Caesars. That is seeing action, Elliot. That is seeing action because it was 6-1. And I was literally looking at the other books earlier. In a matter of 5 minutes, it went from 6-1 to 4-1. So if you want Brandon Jones top 5, go get him now because that's probably going to be down, especially after he qualifies top 7.
Yeah, I certainly don't hate that for Jones at all. He's one of those guys that really has shown flashes in the JRM stuff, but you really can't bet on him for outrights too often. But I think a top 5 here, definitely a good look.
Chuck Aston still take Jones over Gray, minus 135. I like Jones at that price. I'm just paying the top 5 and taking a nibble on that because the one thing I will say about Taylor Gray here, good equipment. He got 3rd in the truck race at Pocono last year and also won an ARCA race here. So he is familiar with Pocono somewhat. So at minus 135, it's a no bet for me, Chuck. It's more like I do like that bet a lot, but minus 135 is tough for fading any JGR equipment to me. So I do like it a lot. It's my bet of the week, but minus 125, I'd say go for it. Minus 135, I can't pay that juice. Just move forward, I think.
Yeah, I'd probably have to agree with you there.
Anything else for you from Xfinity, Elliot? All right, you just cut out again. So I think you said let's move to trucks. Yes. Okay. All right. All right. We're talking trucks now, folks, and this was actually kind of a compelling truck layout this week. We got some guys like Zane Smith. We got Ross Chastain back in the saddle here this week. On the outright, I'm just going to say it. I went with the chalk. I haven't bet him in a couple of months because he can't really. Corey Heim, 2-1 at ESPN. This is seeing action everywhere. This was another one that I was kind of skimming the books, and I saw him plus 210 at Bet Rivers. By the time I went back, it was plus 190. So settled for a 2-1. I already bet this. George's boy, 2nd here last year, 4th here the year before. Best average finish last year at the Triangle, best average running position at the Triangle last year, 4.9. He's auditioning every single week to try to get in a cup car next year, man. Has raced only one truck race in the last 5 weeks. So I think he's dialed in. I think this car is going to be ready to go. And I also think he's been hitting the fucking sim harder than shit right now. Corey Heim, 2-1. It's tough for a truck race, but I think you got to bet it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really love anything in the outright market. I think partly because I think that it's a Heim week for sure. A couple of top 5s, couple of matchups looked all right. I know one thing, though, that keep an eye on our Twitter tomorrow. I'll be there a little earlier. And we'll take a look at, I'll be there for practice and qualifying. We'll see how things kind of shake out, and we'll see how the markets adjust there before the race.
Yeah, agreed. Chuck asking if we think the truck race starts and gets past halfway mark, point before they call it, does that change your strategy for outright bets? I think they're going to make a decision, man, before the race starts because it's so up against kind of the clock. Like they can't have any fuckery going on. So I think they'll call it early enough. They did a really nice job last year calling the ARCA race before that got going. So you can't handicap for that. Like you can't. And so like it sucks. I know it is like if that does happen and Corey Heim starts 12th and doesn't get up there and someone else wins from the pool, like it is what it is. You got beat. Elliot, I'd like to hear any of your top 5s, any of your matchups or specials you have. And there was a message here earlier in the chat. Someone was saying like manufacturers this week are ass. And I agree. I was looking for a truck manufacturer, an Xfinity manufacturer, all ass across the board. So whoever threw that comment in there, I can't find it now because we're getting so many comments, but I thought it was a good shout out here. What do you like on the truck side of things?
Right. So the matchup that I saw, I don't think either of these guys are in the best equipment, but they're both good drivers. Zane Smith is in the 91 truck. He's at plus 105 over Ross Chastain in the 45. I do think Ross is probably a little better than Zane. I think the 45 probably a little better than 91, but I think the variation is there that Zane at the plus money. I'm going to go with that 91 truck.
See, that's another. What was the number for the 91? What was that?
It was only plus 105, so I don't love it. I don't have anything laid down on it yet. But I think Ross was a much heavier favorite. Probably, I think he must have been minus 115, minus 120, something a little longer than I would want to take.
Oh, man, I like Ross this week. I'm going to be honest with you. Minus 125 for the top 5 on Caesars. I'm down on it already. top 5 in 2 of his 3 cup races this week in Al Neese's equipment. Love Al Neese. Excited to see what he can bring to the racetrack for Ross this week. And that scheme is fucking sweet this week. I think you sent it to me on Twitter. It's
he's in the melon truck this week, I think.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
looking
that's
sick.
right.
And last year, not a factor in this race at all. Started
Mhm.
like 25th, crashed out pretty early. However, before last year in the truck races at Pocono, Ross's finishes include a P6, a first, a fifth, and a 10th. That's pretty good, man. Minus 125 for a top 5. I'm okay with it. I'm all right. I'm going on it. Chuck asking how many units. I went 1.25 units on that just to get myself back a unit. Do you like that, Elliot, or are you kind of just like off Ross this week? You hate Al Neese. You always shit on Al Neese's equipment. Come on, bro.
It's worse than it used to be. It's
Sure.
fallen off a little bit. I think it's more of a toss up than it was in the past with a truck like the 91.
Al's gonna whoop your ass if he sees you at Pocono. Don't fuck with Al, Elliot.
Yeah, I'm not saying that he can't win. I mean, Ross won Darlington, I think, in one of his
Yeah.
trucks, and I don't doubt that he'll probably be able to finish better than Zane in some of the circumstances. But with Zane being at the plus money, I like my plus money.
Yeah. What else do you like?
A couple top 5s that I think are, these guys are a little undervalued. Some of the numbers on Ty Majeski, I think, are a little more than they should be. He's been 7th and 6th in the last 2 truck races. His top 5 is a plus 220. Even his outright is 18-1. I don't think I'm very confident in the outright, but his top 5 being at plus 220, I like that. And books are sleeping on Connor Mosack as well. Obviously, better at the road courses, it seems like. Really ran toward the top 5 to 10 all day at Chicago in the Xfinity Series. Yep. He's in that Spire number 7, arguably one of the 5 best trucks out there. His top 5 is all the way up at 3-1. If that truck is fast enough and he keeps up the momentum, I think a top 5 at 3-1 is a very attractive number.
It seems like everywhere we go, Connor Mosack is really, really impressive. I almost bet him last week for a top 5 at Chicago. And then,
I was really thinking about that too. And then he ran 5th all day. And I was like, God damn it. Why didn't I put any money on it? I think he ended up 7th. So
so that would have been a heartbreaker. That would have been a real heartbreaker. So glad I didn't go that way. But I'm with you on Majeski. I don't really understand what the books are thinking this week. Look at this matchup that I'm down on for a unit and a quarter here. Plus 100 at Bet Rivers, and this was also at Caesars over Rajah Cruz, same price. Why is Rajah the favorite? Like, this makes no sense to me. And like, I usually don't love to back this team that's running out of Sandusky, Ohio, up there by Cedar Point. But Rajah only has 1 truck start at Pocono, finished 16th here last year, crashed out on lap 1 of his 1 Xfinity start here. So that's not great. Yeah. And in this Thor Sport equipment, Majeski average finish of 9.0. He was 6th here last year. So I can't totally get behind the top 5. It seems like a stretch, but even money over Rajah. Like, I get Rajah was good at Vegas. He's better at some of the intermediates, but we have no fucking clue how he's going to do here at Pocono. Hasn't shown it. So I think the wrong guy's favored here. I don't get it.
Yeah, I thought about that matchup also. I definitely like that. I don't love that it's even money, but yeah, I don't think Rajah should be the favorite.
Plus 110 at Bovada.
That is wild. I do think you give Thor Sport, multi-time truck champion, a necessary stray there. If Al Neese is going to kick my ass, Duke and Ronda Thorson are going to kick your ass at the track, because Thor Sport is an organization that's done well. Majeski probably is the driver lowest on the board for them, but he hasn't been this bad for these kind of numbers to show up. So I'm glad that I was. I don't watch the trucks probably as often as you do or as closely as you do, but I'm glad I'm on the right page here thinking, why on earth does Majeski have so much, plus money, such long odds? Because the stats certainly don't show it.
Yeah, usually he's like the 3rd or 4th favorite. To see him this far up is like, yeah, and like honestly, an 18-1, what'd you say, 18-1 nibble? Like 16-1, something like that. I might not be bad. I might not be a bad look there. We got Chuck in the chat saying, Seth, when are we going to get the Busch Light watermelon for Chastain? I've been fucking waiting. I've been waiting. I thought we were going to get it this year, but we didn't, man. We didn't get the Busch Light watermelon at all.
Do you think that would even taste good? I mean, I don't know. I haven't had a watermelon beer before. I'm not sure.
It's got to be better than the peach, right? Sorry. Like, I'm not a peach guy. Don't drink the peach. Love the Busch Light apple, man.
Yeah, that's the real story. Is it bring that back and paint that number 1 red like the flannel again this time next year?
I think anything. Yeah, I'll take anything over the peach. Any final truck bets that we haven't thrown out before we close out with a little bit of DFS?
I'm ready for the cheers, man. Let's do it.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and we're going to round this out with a little bit of tire tiers here. Let's get it rocking and rolling here for Pocono.
All right, I was wondering if that was going to show up a little bit. Here we go. I wanted to try it. I only got one screen here. Usually I block out the tiers and block out what I was doing. But Seth, if at any point I freeze up here, the number freezes up, just keep on going and you can correct me, because if I've been cutting out, most of the time you haven't been cutting out and it's just my camera's coming through weird. So if we do run into that situation, keep on going. If there's a number I didn't put where it needed to go, just remind me of it and we'll get it caught up.
Well, I have your audio. Your camera did just cut out here. Elliot's on the road, guys. Usually our production quality is a little bit better, but he's up at the Rents house tonight. So gonna have to upgrade the Rents to Starlink. I know they live out in the boonies, Elliot. So we'll get your camera connected. I think I can still hear you, though. If you can still hear me, I think, like, is there, like, can we just put Denny Hamlin, the driver A's? I wish we had an A+ tier this week, because I think he's a goddamn A+. Like, there's no one else in his tier.
We'll hover him up here. He's the A1, but he's definitely leading off the A's for sure.
Yeah, we talked about Hamlin quite a bit earlier, man, but his track record here is just incredible. Who would be your 102? Would it be Larson at 10-8 here on DraftKings?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, steep price to pay, but I think it's worth every penny because it's probably going to come down to Hamlin and Larson again.
For your 3 spot, can you talk me out of Tyler Reddick, 9,800? It's just been the pure speed, finally averaging, like, he's never been a guy in past years. He's always been a guy that you don't play in DFS because he always fucking averages like 30 points per game. He's up there at 41.5. That's third in the garage right now. So I like Tyler Reddick. I have him in fan tracks and be holding on to him there as well. So I do like some T Reddick this week. Again, don't really want to bet on him because sometimes I just can't get him right there. But in DFS, I'll play him. Who else for the A's?
I almost think we've had our A+ and then we have a regular A, and I think we're already down to the A- because we probably should put maybe like Chase or maybe Bell in the A's, but I don't have it nearly as strong an argument for anyone other than these top 3. Maybe even Ty Gibbs. Is Gibbs worth an A or not quite?
I would like Ty Gibbs. Let's go 3. Let's go top 3 here and leave it as it is, because I don't know if anyone else truly is an A here. Ty Gibbs would start out the B's for me, though, and I think Christopher Bell right behind him probably as well. Just kind of a sign of respect for what he's been doing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Truex has looked pretty good here the last couple years. Number 2 in the total speed rankings. Again, I'm just like a little sour on Truex. Like, the dude's been fishing. He was on Dale Jr. download last week. He was fishing in New Jersey with his buddies all weekend. Like, he's half checked out right now. That's where I am on Truex.
Yeah, fair enough. I think the speed's been good enough, though. And Truex has really been similar to his career mean. Tracks he's been good at, he's good at. Tracks he hasn't been good at, he's not good at. And Pocono being a track he's good at, he may not be keeping up with it, but he knows what he knows, and he runs fast where he runs fast.
Yeah. Could I even maybe get Kez thrown above Truex? Like, only 13th in the total speed rankings, and you could fight me on it, but when you look at...
I think I'm okay with him as a B, but I don't think the numbers are all that spectacular to put him above Truex.
I guess you're right.
He's a little overpriced at 8,800, I feel like, too.
Yeah, in the next gen area, you're right. Finishes of 16th and 14th, but before that, he's got a 3rd in 2021, a 10th in 2020, and like, him and Busch are always good at Michigan. You know what I mean? Like they were good at Michigan last year, so that's why I like Kez a little bit, because the last track we ran closest to Pocono, him and Busch were fighting for the win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I won't put Buescher up there, but I think I'm okay with Brad being up there. And I kind of think we got to clear out Hendrick. I think we got to put probably, if not all 3 in the B's, I think at least Byron and Bowman have to be B's. And then if we want Chase to lead off the C, just with how good they've been, both. Well, Byron not as much lately, but Byron 3rd in the total speed ranking, best car in the speed ranking last year, which kind of comes out of nowhere. I don't remember him running all that spectacularly.
Super fast on Saturday. I remember we hit the pull bet on Byron last year here. So
that's right. Yep.
Yeah, and he's gonna have double duty, so he'll be in the car. But yeah, like he's the thing with him is like if he qualifies up front, I just don't know if I think he's gonna stay there. You know what I mean? I think he could come backwards a little bit, so I don't love that necessarily. So I think he's kind of right in there. Chase is another guy really hard for me this week because like he might have finished third or fourth, whatever he did in that Xfinity race last year when he was in that Elliott, but he was not really contender all day. I remember I had, I think, a top 3 or a top 5 on him, and I cashed it out of the luck of my pants. You know what I mean? So I don't love Chase, but if you want to make the argument for him, you can. I'm just not paying the 9,500, and I think he's up to like 26 or some shit in Fantrax League. So I'm just me on Chase. I think he's a high C.
Yeah, I'm okay with splitting them up there, but I think that's probably a good split, and I think maybe we probably go with the 12 and the 22 and probably the 23, maybe even the 1 in the C's. I know I threw out a lot of guys there, but
I think that's yeah, no, I think the 12 especially, I mean, he's won here before. Actually a really fast car. He had drivetrain issues in that second stage, but he was running up in the top 5 last season. Joey Logano always getting bit by just his pit strategy, you know, getting back in the fucking mix with the clams and getting wrecked there. So don't mind Logano there either. Ross Chastain, the guy's had some really good pure speed as of late, faster. How'd you feel about I don't know if it was on purpose, but I feel like SVG was alluding to, hey, that car last week was prepped entirely by Trackhouse. I don't even know if it ever saw the garage floor there at Colleague.
Yeah, and I mean that does happen sometimes, and that's really what it seemed like because all due respect to Colleague, I don't know, they're putting together an extremely fast road course car to the point where SVG was running before getting taken out.
Yeah, agreed. Chuck in the chat asking what Blaney's recent stats are here. The finishes have been dog shit. But like we've said, kind of has gotten into some stuff. Had an accident in 2022. He was leading laps, finished stage 2 in second, stage 1 and 4th that day, started 6th, led 7 laps. And then last year led 2 laps, was running really well in the last stage, and then had that drivetrain issue and ended up putting him back in the pack. So
yeah,
no more thoughts really for me on Blaney or we've kind of touched on Bubba. You like him, I think, a little bit more than me, but I mean the equipment's going to be good. The equipment, and he's been top 10, I think, the last 2 times we've been here.
Exactly. Yeah, his last 3 finishes here, I have him on my cup sheet: 5th, 8th, and 11th. The last 3 times at Pocono.
Yeah, I can get down, I think, with Bubba a little bit because 7,600 is, I think, actually a really good price for him. So don't mind him there. Do you want to go D's or do you have anyone else who belongs in the C? Because I might have one recommendation, but I think it might get striked down by the committee.
All right, who do you got?
Josh Berry, 7,100. Again, super fucking good here in the Xfinity series. This car has been good here on these style of tracks the last 2 or 3 years. So 7,100 for Berry, bro. Like that's lower than Briscoe. That's right around fucking Eric Jones territory. Like, giddy up, man. Giddy up.
I'll approve. The committee has approved your recommendation, Mr. Woolcock.
Thank you.
Minus for Josh Berry.
Thank you. What else do you think? You think anyone else? Do you like Gragson? He won here a couple years ago in Xfinity.
No, I think it's time to go to the D's. I like Gragson to lead it off. I think you probably put Kyle Busch and maybe even Eric Jones down here. Do we think or Chris Buescher ahead of Jones probably just on respective equipment, but I think you have to consider Jones for a D- at least.
Yeah, I was surprised you didn't bring up the Eric Jones top 10 because I remember we talked to him after the race.
I did, but I cut out. I was starting to bring it up and then I cut out. So
okay. Yeah, it's just been the equipment's been dog shit. And for whatever reason, John Hunter, like last week, John Hunter was running top 10 a lot of the day, and he ends up just hitting shit at the end. Also, John Hunter's, I didn't say this earlier, John Hunter's fucking dead to me. Fuck John Hunter. No, dude, he's beating Sammy Smith the whole fucking day, starts in the rear, moves up, and then on the last lap, him and Suarez got to play grab ass in the back, and he goes from 14th, 1 spot ahead of Sammy Smith, all the way back to 26. I lose a 4-unit swing on the last lap again. Fuck you, John Hunter Nemechek. You're not getting ranked this week, fucker. Sorry.
Well, that's almost as much Suarez's fault as it is John Hunter's, right? I mean, Suarez ran after Chase Elliott at the end of last week, too.
I don't know. John Hunter, every time I bet on him 3 times this year, and he's fucked me over every single time. So he's in the dead to me list as well. Um, Alfred saying, "You guys already know Tyler Reddick is gonna win." Yo, he and our guy Brian Twining are like massive Tyler Reddick fans. They would bet Tyler
Yeah.
Reddick every fucking week if you could. We
Yeah, I
like
think
Reddick.
we need to order Alfred a pair of Monster Energy green tinted glasses for all his bets.
Yeah, bro. You better be slamming some fucking Monster Alfred on Saturday, bro. You better be caffeinated to the fucking tits, man.
Either that or like wearing a pair of Jordans or browsing on Xfinity Mobile. He's got a lot of sponsors, the 45.
Yes, Andrew also, this is a good point to make. He's saying, well, I ranked JHN in the F quarter category, so nothing special there. Yeah, shout out Andrew Yu. He's our newest member at IBT. He's going to be taking over the DFS column every week, so he's going to make his own version in these tiers. So if you watch this show and you're like, hey, yeah, I've heard Elliot and Seth's opinion on these guys, I want to hear a different IBT family member's opinion, go over to the site on Fridays. Andrew will drop that. Appreciate you, Andrew. That's gonna be really cool that you're taking over that. Really excited to hear your knowledge over there. Yeah. I actually, can we move Suarez up, please?
We'll bump him up probably above Rowdy.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe a little further.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, 7,500. Like you are paying for it, but he does have a track record here, and Michigan likes these types of tracks a lot. So, oh my gosh, and I feel like his ears were burning because we were just talking about Brian Twining. He's in the chat saying, "What's up, guys? Just burning alive here in Vegas, so I can't bet the race this weekend." Or so I can bet the race this weekend. Okay, good to hear.
I was going to say, I think you're okay to bet in Vegas. Seth.
Yeah, I don't think you can mobily or some shit, though. I think you actually might have to.
You got a casino on every fucking block in Vegas, right? He'll be good.
I'm pretty sure Brian said he lives like right over the hill from like a nice little sports book that he can sit down at. So, and yes, he is again on Reddick this week. Shocker. Like, I'm just going to start putting like odds on Brian to bet Tyler Reddick each week because I think Elliot would be like minus 500. It's been every week for 6 weeks now.
And I mean, he's run well. It's just Reddick's another one of those guys that's run well lately, but he has only been to victory lane at Talladega, and arguably that was a little fluky.
Yeah. Saying right across the street from Westgate Superbook. Gotta love it, man. Nice. Gotta love it. All right. Who else? Anyone else for the D tier here, Elliot? Your guy Todd?
I was thinking Gilliland either for the end of the D's, the beginning of the F's. Is there an argument for Briscoe in either of those slots either?
Yeah, Todd Gilliland, he somehow pulled out a 15th place finish out of his ass last year at this track. So yep. I think I don't think he's going to qualify super well, although they have been qualifying pretty well.
Usually that's McNasty, though. That's not even Gilliland, who I think McNasty probably in the F's makes sense.
Yeah, McNasty, last 4 races, average finish of 15.3 here. So don't mind him at all. Ricky Stenhouse getting some love in the chat. Throw him in the Fs as well, I would say. There was a bet, and oh my God, Caesars pisses me off sometimes. So I was looking at Ricky Stenhouse under 21.5, plus 105 this morning. Literally go to bet it. They take it away. They bring it back an hour later, and it's minus 20.5, minus 115. And I still want to bet it, but fuck you, Caesars. I'm not gonna after that bullshit. So, but Ricky Stenhouse actually been really good as of late. He's got 2 top 10s in a row, man. I don't know what Brad, like as soon as Brad Doherty gets back on TV, man, he starts rigging up some fucking hot rods, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this out of Ricky that just he can catch some hot streaks where that 47 team is really hitting on something and round out some good finishes. And yeah, hasn't been all that terrible at Pocono either.
Brian's saying that, oh, geez, he's saying that line's down to 18.5 now here in Vegas. Woo! Wow.
I forgot what his positioning was when I looked earlier. I wanted to get in on some of those Caesars positioning bets, but none of them looked attractive at all.
The Stenhouse one, I like that one, man. He finished 7th here last year, 18th the year before. Yeah, Brian's making the case that maybe it should be a D. I think maybe end of the Ds if we'd want to. I think that, has a little weight there. What about AJ Allmendinger? F, I think. Like anytime you can throw AJ out there, this is kind of a good track for him, at least in the Xfinity side of things. I don't know what he's necessarily done in the Cup side of things. Finished 17th last year. So yeah, I think AJ's worth a look, especially on fan tracks. Brian's kicking our ass in fan tracks this year, but I think AJ's like $7 or $8, something dirt cheap over there. So it's got to be in your lineup there.
This week he'll have his normal colleague crew. He won't have the colleague scraps that he ended up crashing out last week.
Yeah, I don't even want to know what the colleague scraps are like. They're probably they're probably playing at IUP football. That's what.
Yeah, no, the colleague scraps are you're the spotter and I'm the crew chief. It's colleague scraps.
Yeah, honestly, can you make the case for like Justin Hailie? Maybe add just respect.
Yeah. I was gonna say Hailie and maybe even both of these Spire boys.
Definitely throw Carson on there, and Zane's been running better as well. So if you want to put him on there, you can. Fuck Corey Lajoie, he sucks still apparently.
We probably have to throw the 2 and the 3 on, and then I think we're good.
Yeah, throw the 2 and the Hemrick, man, honestly, dude, like Daniel Hemrick. It hasn't, like, we don't have a ton of Cup stats to go off of him, but like I've said, when I rewatched those Xfinity races, Daniel Hemrick popped. He circled in my notes. He's had good runs here, and we even mentioned earlier, like, colleague equipment kind of shows up here for whatever fucking reason. So I do like him. Show Hemrick some fucking respect. Put him above Austin Dillon. Come on, Elliot.
Right.
Like, come on, Hemrick for 5,400 for Hemrick, like. There's no one else like in that tier I'm even looking at. Like maybe Zane Smith at 58, I guess, but 6,000 for Austin Dillon. Ooh, bro.
Yeah, we'll adjust a little bit. We'll give Hemrick up a little bit. We'll bump 71 probably behind the 2, and then Austin Dillon can round it off. It's always a discussion. I'm just throwing guys on the board, and then we can talk about it.
No. I just like bullying you into moving Daniel Hemrick up every week. And
well, he was on a really good little run about a month ago where he was rolling off big-time DFS points every week. Kind of cooled off, but I do think Pocono probably is a spot to get it going again, especially if you believe the superstition. Hemrick ended up 9th or something at Dover when we were there, thanks to some good strategy.
Yeah, he did. He really did. And Justin Hailie, actually, man, see, Haley's a tough one because he was 13th in the total speed rankings last year, but I don't know if that was like the colleague car or if he's actually just really good at Pocono.
Yeah, and Hailie ended up crashing out late in the race last year also, so that's an incomplete data set there. He didn't run the full laps.
Yeah. Points for him the last 4 weeks, so 34 DraftKings points last week at Chicago, 50 the week before in Nashville, up in New Hampshire, 10, so shitty week there, but 37 in Iowa.
New Hampshire would have been way better if he doesn't get dicked over in the last 10 laps there. He was running, 7th or 8th on speed.
Yep, I remember. I was betting on him. I was betting on him.
I had it too. Don't worry, but I didn't. This is the 1 week I didn't shout out the Justin Hailie top 10, and I'm not going to bet it. So he's going to finish 8th at Pocono. I'm ready for it.
Anyone else you want to give your 2 cents on? The only thing I want to do, and I don't have an empty beer. I still have a sip left, but I want to throw my beer against the wall. Stop putting fucking Cody Ware in Cup Series equipment, any Series equipment. This guy's dog shit. Like, this is nepotism to the bone. This is why people stop watching fucking NASCAR. Like put Riley Herbst in this car. Put Kaz Gralla. I don't care. Put fucking Elliot Hicks. Like, fucking strap up, Jim. Like, let's go. I'm tired of fucking Cody Ware, bro. I hate this guy. Sorry, I don't hate anybody, but I just don't like him it just ruins it, man.
I think and this is even completely separate to the issue that had him get suspended last year. I don't think either of us are taking that into account at all. It is just on the on-track performance. He has been bad. He was perfect for this car when they ran the 4 shittiest cars every single week. He's not a terrible race car driver. Obviously, you have to be a good race car driver to be in the Cup Series, but Gralla's run well. Herbst has run well. I understand you can't put guys in the car for free, and if you're going to put guys in the car for free, it may as well be your kid who's run for years in the Cup Series, but your team is serious enough. Your team is good enough now. Your team is running top 15 every week with Justin Hailie.
Yes.
You're running too good to put your kid who's not that good in the car. I think hopefully next year, somebody with more close to full funding will step in that car, and Cody Ware will have to step away and go to other racing ventures. It's just we want to take Rick Ware Racing seriously. They've done the work. They're almost there. They just need to clear out this one last step.
Yep. Yep. Chuck in the chat saying fuck nepotism. Dylan in the nepotism conversation as well. Yeah,
Hey,
certainly, man.
Austin Dillon's won like 4 cup races, though. I mean,
Yeah,
Cody Ware's
yeah.
never been close, short of the wreck at Daytona where Austin Dillon won, and everybody but BJ and the Rick Ware cars crashed out.
Also getting a lot of conversation that we need to move Kyle Busch up to the C's, and I ain't doing it unless you are,
No.
because
He's
dude,
at
8,200.
yeah,
That's fucking
he's way
okay.
too high, and the car has not run well enough. Kyle Busch, the driver, like we talked about earlier, yes, but his speed ranking right here, he's 7th total. Pocono 2022, he's number 1 in speed ranking. Pocono 2023, 17th. Wasn't a factor at all day.
Well, and like the thing is, 8,200. Let's talk about who's around Kyle Busch. Ross Chastain, 8,400. I'd rather play Ross. Chris Buescher, 8,000. Rather play Chris Buescher.
Yeah. That one's debatable.
Oh yeah, that one's close, I guess. Alex Bowman, 7,800. Okay, I'm playing him every time. Bubba Wallace, 7,600. Playing Bubba every time. Gragson, 7,300. I'm playing him every time. Barry, like Suarez, 75. Like all those guys.
I mean, you got Gilliland's at 68, and I think he's going to finish better than Rowdy, and that's nearly a $2,000 salary difference.
These are our tiers as the IBT family, so we like your guys' input, but not. I can't take it this time. Can't move Kyle any. I think where we have him is generous. Honestly, I really do, man.
I think he's placed right where he needs to be, because obviously he's not in the A's or B's. I agree with pretty much all the A's or B's. Even if I think Keselowski's a little high, I respect it, and I think Josh Berry's probably a little high. But they're the only guys I would really consider bumping for Kyle Busch. I think otherwise Rowdy's right where he should be.
You can move, you can move Brad to the end of the B's. You're right. I think I was a little high on him. I think I was looking at more of his career stats and not really what he's done.
And that's the same. If we looked at career stats for Kyle Busch, he's an A-tier driver.
Yeah,
but he's not in that car anymore.
That's exactly what Brian's saying in the chat too. Yeah, RCR KFB is not the same as KFB. You compiled all those stats with JGR. Yes. Well said, my friend. Well fucking said. Give me your 2 cents on the rest of these schmucks we didn't rank.
Yeah, I mean, pretty light this week. The 44 car, shout out to them. You're going to see that bright yellow Ollie's bargain out in the car at some point. It'll just be getting lapped 25 laps in probably. You know,
I hate the Ollie's bargain logo. I just hate it.
You know, I think it's great branding. They really, you know,
other people love it. I don't like that branding at all.
You go into their stores, you're not going to get anything that's super flashy. You're going to get the discount. You know, it's good stuff cheap is the motto. So good stuff cheap. You need, you know, the guy, the Ollie, the mascot. You know, you get everything you need from there. You know, I've gotten some good things a time or two from an Ollie's bargain outlet. So shout out to them for getting funding. I mean, normally they're I think they've shown up in a blank car a couple of times. So shout out to Ollie's for funding them. You've already said your piece on John Hunter. I won't expand. Same with Lajoie. Hopefully next year there won't be a race where he's unranked with Rodney Childers. I mean, we'll have to see.
He shouldn't be. If there is, that'll be his last season in that car, guaranteed.
Yeah, and that, like we talked about earlier, I think it's put up or shut up in 25 for him. Harrison Barton, I'm really looking forward to not having to fade him and him getting a decent Xfinity ride next year, because I think he's.
I can't wait to bet. I hope he goes back to JGR or something. We can just start betting him again on Xfinity every week. That'll be awesome.
I would say it wouldn't work, but JHN went from front row and got back into a KBM truck, which is equivalent of JGR. So maybe it'll happen. And then Ryan Preece, the same, you know, whether he sticks around or whether he says, fuck this, I'm going to go run my modifieds. That's great. But this is really the time of year. Unfortunately, you'll notice this for a few of these guys that are going to be kind of lame ducks in silly season. We did it last year where they're just not really going to be considered. I mean, SHR is shutting down. Preece is the only guy now there that doesn't have a cup deal signed already for next year. And it just probably isn't going to happen for him.
Yeah. I hope he goes back to the Xfinity series too. I'd love to, you know, play him in some Xfinity DFS, or, you know, have him on my card in some way, because I like Ryan Preece. I've always been a big Ryan Preece fan.
And I'm really glad he got the chance. He just came into SHR at a bad time, and is just there's so much driver movement. Not that he's not good enough for a cup ride. He's just going to be, you know, musical chairs is going to end, and he's not going to have a chair, I think.
He could take over the 15. I think he'd be good in the 15.
If he's got the funding. I mean, the unfortunate thing is they've had to run that Haas 41, but he's run with Ware before. Remember the one year he damn near won the Clash until he blew a motor because Ware hadn't figured out how to set their cars up yet.
Yeah. Story is as old as time, man. Rick Ware Racing equipment blowing up. But hey, hopefully we can talk to them. I'd love to talk to them and about their equipment this weekend. And Elliot, I think we can go ahead and close out the tiers there, man. And just remind everyone that we're going to be bringing you content all throughout the weekend. So make sure you subscribe to the channel here. Make sure you're plugged in with us. We'll also have some articles over on the website that Elliot's going to pen for us, inbetweenmedia.com. So I'm fucking hyped, man. What else he got for us as we kind of round things out here, brother?
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Like Seth said, be on the lookout for video content, be on the lookout for some tweets, be on the lookout for some stories, be on the lookout for some extra bets, as we're going to be there following practice and qualifying and everything. May even do another live show or two while we're there. All the stuff's going to come with us. I'll make the technical difficulties up to you guys tonight because we're going to put out some extra content all weekend. Much appreciated to everyone for sitting through it. Seth, I'll open up the door for you before we sign off here. Regardless, it's going to be an exciting weekend at Pocono, and I'm excited to get there tomorrow.
Oh, dude, I'm hyped up, man. I'm hyped up. I have a to-do list I need to get through before I can get out the door tomorrow. Need to finish up editing a podcast and get my article written. But I'm so excited, man. So grateful for this NASCAR betting community and DFS community we're building over here at In Between Media. You guys are awesome. From Bob, Chuck, Brian, Andrew, Cush, Alfred. Everyone who rides with us in the chat every single week, we greatly appreciate everything you guys do for us. Brian reminding everyone to hit that subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it, guys. It's going to be so much fun this weekend, and stay tuned, man. We're going to have a good time, and cheers to the weekend, my friend.
Absolutely. Thanks for rolling down the back road with us, and thanks for rolling down the road to the Tricky Triangle with us this weekend. We will see you there tomorrow and all weekend long here at In Between Media.